Listen to that. Nothing beats a vinyl.
Some technology just stands the test of time. Our technology not only brings the cool, it also brings the heat. At Mitsubishi Electric, we've been mastering and innovating heat pump technology since 1970. EcoDan, continued innovation in heating for home and business. Mitsubishi Electric, changes for the better.
Real Life, Real Crime is a true crime podcast brought to you by Woody Overton and executive producer Toby Tomplay.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney prior to and during any questioning. You can't afford one, a court will appoint one for you. You understand your rights.
Your crime spree was over, son. Yeah, you thought you had it licked, but Detective Overton made you sure to turn to shit. Get ready, you're gonna do time. Real life, real crime.
Warning. This episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast, may contain descriptions of acts of violence or that are of a sexual nature. It should be for people that are 18 years or older. Heed my warning, people. I do not get the facts of these cases off of the internet or from some television show. The facts we're retelling you were presented to us by the victims of the crimes or the perpetrators who committed the crimes against the victims. My description of the crime scenes are what I saw with my own two eyes. If you're going to get offended, please turn this podcast off now. Thank you. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast. As always, I'm your host, Woody Overton. And today I'm going to be continuing with part 2 of PADtrax, PADtrax. And stay tuned at the end of the show for some more announcements and all that good podcaster stuff. But I want to thank each and every one of you. I love you. Your lifers rule the world. Hashtag lifers rule. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Patreon members, you rock. Thank you for your support. I really appreciate it. And y'all, thank you for telling everybody that you know about me, because you're making Real Life, Real Crime continue to blow up generically. It's crazy, the growth, and I appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Stay tuned at the end of this show and let's roll with it. Okay, so when I left you last, we're on PADtrax and telling you about the shit show evidence thing that's going on with this department. And now I'm going to polygraph everybody in the department. Every single person. I think it was 33 of them. I explained the polygraph process to you at the beginning of it, and the main relevant questions that I was going to ask. And so I started, and I don't know, I can't remember the exact order, but, you know, like I told you, I did everybody from the secretaries to where anybody that ever set foot in that department in an official capacity got tested. And so I started with like the reserve officers or, you know, secretaries and whatever, and start bringing them in. And I was doing 4 a day. And let me tell you something, that's a real bitch. It's a minimum like 12 hours, sometimes longer. You know, I had to get each person in and go through this same process I told you about last time. And from the rights to consent to questioning, to polygraph rights, to the medical questionnaire, to, you know, the explanation and blah, 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 whatever. Practice test or the acquaintance test, and then the main test. Now let's get to the main test. That's where I left off. I've just completed the practice test, and they got the oh shit, you know, look on their face because I just got their question that they lied about. the 1 out of 8 questions, right, that I told them to lie about, but I didn't know the answer. At the end of the test, I told them what was it they lied about. So the psychological set is stoked, and they know if they lie to me, I'm going to know what it looks like, right? So really, there's no lie detector in the room. All it is a instrument where you take, or the examiner is monitoring 3 certain areas of the body's physiology that change under the stress. So get into the test. I would do each test 3 separate times, but the test itself is very short. It only takes probably, 4, maybe 5 minutes, maybe less. But it's 25 seconds between each question. You ask the first question, they respond, 25 seconds. Then you ask the next question, they respond, 25 seconds. And you get through the test, stop, and they're still attached to the instrument. You take a little break in between each chart or series, whatever you want to call it. And I tell them to relax at the end of that test. And, you can scratch or itch or move if you need to move. And meanwhile, before I ask them the questions again, I say, the test is about to begin. Please remain still. Start number 2. What I'm doing as an examiner is I balance out their nerves. I make a couple adjustments if needed on the instrument, because as the test goes along, they're going to get more or less nervous depending on whether or not they're telling the truth. So before I ask the questions the second time, I just adjust those areas that I'm monitoring like I told you about. And then I'll ask the questions again. Boom, stop. Let them take a little break for a minute. Let their arm rest because it has the blood pressure cuff on the arm. It's a little tight. And we do it the third time. Boom. Finish the third one. I unattach them from the instrument. I tell them to go have a seat and in the hallway, and I'm going to score the test. Well, then I go back and I score all 3 charts, and so many points to negative, you fail or deception indicated. So many points to positive, you pass, no deception indicated. You can reach an inconclusive if there's not enough data to score, or no opinion, and that's if you catch them trying to cheat or use countermeasures. I didn't have a problem. The no deception indicated, right? And so I start rolling through these tests. I say rolling through them. I start conducting these tests, but by the end of the day, I'm tired. And then the next day, I got the same thing going on. Well, guess what? It doesn't have. And again, I had to be assigned to this too. It's not like the chief could just call it and do whatever. I mean, the powers that be knew that this was a total shit show, and I was going to be helping the agency out, but they also knew it was going to, when I'm doing this, I can't do anything else. If I'm working on this 12 to 15 hours a day, then I can't take any other cases, right? And shit, I always had other cases. But anyway, so somebody else catches my slack, but this has got to be done. And day after day, I'm testing people. And I think I sent 1 or 2 home for medical reasons, and had rescheduled their test for a later date. Somebody just came in and was like, and when I asked them about how much you sleep last night, I didn't sleep and I didn't sleep a week and I hadn't slept in days and And I'm like, well, go home. And they were like, no, I could take the test. I'm like, I'm taking my test because if you fail it, I don't want you coming back and saying, oh, well, I told you I was tired and I couldn't stay awake. And so I sent them home. And a lot of people were surprised about that. Powers that be that really didn't like it. I'm like, why didn't you just test us? I said, because I'm not going to have it come back and bite me again like it did on that false positive episode I released. So I'm proceeding through the test day after day after day after day, and it goes on. And then I get into the guys that I know, right? And in the guys that came up after me, and then the guys that I came up with, and the guys that I know, and then ultimately the chief. And when it got to a point where it was the people that had access to, actually had physical key access to the evidence room, I started with the chief first when I scheduled them, right? And when they tried to tell me, they thought it could have been such. I said, I don't want to hear that shit. I don't want to know. I don't want to know who you think it is or anything else, because you could be trying to throw shade on somebody, and it could be you. I was talking to the chief, right? I said, so just don't even tell me I'm going to use the polygraph, right? Y'all, we get to one of the guys that comes in, and I've known him forever, and he's been in law enforcement forever, and I really can't share much of the history. You don't know who it is, but I bring him in, sit down, and we laugh about a couple things, whatever, and I start going through the stuff, and, nonchalant, he's not worried about anything, and we go through the motions. I say the motions. We go through the polygraph process, if you will. I asked him the questions, or we made the relevant questions. Did you take any of that missing evidence, or did you slice in his envelopes, whatever it was? And of course he answered no. And we did the practice or the acquaintance test, which I had him lie to me on 1 out of 8 questions. I picked which question he lied about. And y'all, I'm just going to tell you what happened. And I start to run the first chart. And I asked the question like, are you now in the state of Louisiana? Yes. Regarding that missing evidence from the evidence room, do you intend to answer these questions truthfully? Yes. That's what we call a sacrifice relevant, y'all. That's the first question that's introduced about the relevant questions on the test. And you want them to hear about it before you get to the relevant questions in case they're nervous about it. It helps to take some of the nerves off the questions, if you will. And then you ask the next question, and then you get into the relevance. Long story short, I asked the first relevant question, and did you slice open any of those evidence envelopes, whatever it was? And his shit went off the chart. I mean, the 3 areas of physiology that you monitor, one of them is what they used to call galvanic skin response. Now they call it electrodermal activity, or EDA. That's where you have the finger plates, y'all. Or nowadays, a lot of people use the gel pads that stick in the palm of your hands. All it is skin sweat. But I have it set on mine, or I had it set on mine as the green line. And, you're rolling along with the questions, and you're watching the line, and you ask the question, and he says no, and that bitch, ping, flew up. And I was like, holy shit. But that's not the only one. The other one are the pneumotubes, the one across your upper chest and the one across your abdomen, and they're measuring kind of breathing, and it's not really breathing. It's muscle movement that changes in the intercostal and your abdominal muscles. But anyway, so the more suppression you have when they're answering that question and you're asking it, that's more deception indicator, right? I mean, his shit was flat. And then the other area you're monitoring, and those were in blue, y'all. So it looks like each breath you take looks like a little mountain. And if you're holding your breath, the mountain goes away, okay? And then I had the blood pressure cuff, and that's measuring that blood flow into your artery. Well, you can see, it's so sensitive, you can see each heartbeat makes a line, right? Like you do see on the hospital charts on the movies where it goes beep, 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 beep. Well, it's a lot faster on this. It's and the theory is when a person lies, that it increases, right? It dumps. You have that basically adrenaline dump, however you want to explain it, and it goes up. Man, his shit was climbing, and he would answer the questions, boom, and take off. And as soon as I saw it, you have to be like a great poker player, because you're sitting there, and this is your buddy, and he knows that he's lying, right? He knows what he's been doing, and he knows that he came in there and he knew he was going to lie on the test. And so, but I have to sit there and ask the questions in a monotone voice, and then ask the next question, no matter what I'm seeing on the screen. And I always told him that as the test goes along, I said, don't pay attention to me when the test is going along. You need to sit as still as possible, relax as much as possible, answer the questions yes or no. So pick you out a spot on the wall, stare at it. Don't look at me, don't move. Sit as still as possible, relax as much as possible, and answer questions yes or no. Do not pay attention to me, because I'm not scoring it as it goes along. All I'm doing is keeping everything straight and making sure you're not trying to cheat. Well, I always lied about that, because I could do the math in my head as it went along. And he was smoking it. So I asked him the first one, he smoked it, and when I got to the next relevant question, smoked it. When I say smoked it, y'all, I mean like burn it up, not in a good way, deception indicator, right? And he's still got to finish the test. Now he knows, I know what's going on inside of his body. I can see it on my screen, but he can't see my screen. And so I have to sit there with the poker face on and then get done with the test. And I got to do it 2 more times, right? So we got a minute or two, a couple minutes that'll let him rest. We get done and tell him, the test is now complete. Please remain still for 20 seconds, whatever I say. And then to get done, I say, okay, you can relax now. Well, kind of a bit of uncomfortable silence in the room because hey, ladies, are you feeling overwhelmed by hormonal changes? Well, you're definitely not alone. There are more than 1,000 hormone disruptors living in our environment right now. It's in your food, your water, the air you breathe, the clothes you wear, your skincare products. They all mess with your hormones. Then there's the natural hormone changes your body goes through, premenopause, menopause. And while it's a natural process, it doesn't mean you have to suffer through it. The good news is you don't have to suffer through it anymore because now you have Hormone Harmony, a formula made only with herbal ingredients that are shown to reduce hormonal symptoms in women of all ages. Hormone Harmony is not just a hormone supporting supplement, it's become a phenomenon. Women can't stop talking about it on social media. A bottle of Hormone Harmony is sold every 24 seconds. And the biggest benefit? Well, my wife says it makes her feel like her own self again. And that's what women mention over and over in the reviews. And there are over 30,000 reviews for Hormone Harmony. And for a limited time, you can get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use code RLRC at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC for 15% off today. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC. Spark something uncommon this holiday with just the right gift from Uncommon Goods. The busy holiday season is here, and Uncommon Goods makes it less stressful with incredible hand-picked gifts for everyone on your list, all in one spot. Gifts that spark joy, wonder, delight, and that's exactly what I wanted feeling. Hey, y'all, I ordered a super cool piece. It's a candle with a sculpture of LSU's Tiger Stadium on top of it. And each officially licensed laser-cut wooden replica features up to 4 layers of detail, creating a bird's eye view of a specific football field, seating section, and more. And every label includes your stadium's name, the team's logo, and school location. And it has a coconut, soy, vegan wax infused with sandalwood smell that creates tailgates and touchdowns scent profile, reminiscent of game day. It's invigorating like fresh cut grass and nostalgic like smoke from a pre-game grill, and calming like the crisp autumn air of a new semester on campus. Y'all, I love it. I have it at the base of my TV, and I'm ready to watch the Tigers play on Saturday night, right? Uncommon Goods. Look, when you shop at Uncommon Goods, you're supporting artists and small independent businesses. And many of their handcrafted products are made in small batches. So shop now before they sell out this holiday season. Uncommon Goods looks for products that are high quality, unique, and often handmade or made in the U.S. They have the most meaningful, out of the ordinary gifts anywhere. They even have gifts you can personalize. From holiday hosts and hostess gifts to the coolest finds for kids, to hits for everyone from the book lovers to diehard sports fans. Uncommon Goods has something for everyone, not the same old selections you can just find anywhere. And with every purchase you make at Uncommon Goods, they give $1 to a nonprofit partner of your choice. They've donated more than $3 million to date. So to get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/RLRC. That's uncommongoods.com/RLRC for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary. One of a couple of things are happening. One, he knows I got his ass, right? And, or two, he thinks he's praying I'm such a shitty polygraphist that I'm just going to get it wrong, right? And then I never ever thought he would have failed it. And then I started thinking, you know what? Just give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to run it again, like I was going to anyway, right? So run it again. Same thing. Gets a relevant question. He answers no about the evidence. Boom. The green line, which is the sweat. The pneumos crushed. The blue lines, the mountains, and the heart takes off just through the roof. I'm like, fuck. And then get through, stop, and he's sweating profusely and all of this by this time. I mean, like when I stopped the second chart and he went to move around, I have this big chair they sit in, y'all, that your arms are raised up on and they're on metal platforms. Your hands are flat out on a metal platform. And he like flexed his hand and picked it up. There were puddles of sweat under it, right? And I'm like, well, here we go, right? And so I did it the third time and conclude the test. And I told him, I said, I take everything off of him and he's sweating his ass off. And I told him, I said, hey, you can go outside and have a seat. And I said, I got to score everything, right? He goes out. I call the chief and I said, man, you're not going to fucking believe. And I told him, now the polygraph test is still strictly confidential, except for where I had permission to release it to, the powers that be, right? And I got that verbally and writing ahead of time. But I called him and I said, man, he's just not going to believe. And he said, tell me. And I said, well, I'm not finished testing everybody yet, but he just smoked the test in the worst way. And he said, you think you're going to get a confession out of him? I said, fuck no. And, I said, and he said, why not? He said, you get it out of everybody else. I said, would you confess? I said, oh, well, I'm going to try. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to cancel the rest of the points I think I only have one more after him. I said, you call and cancel the last one for the day, because I'm going to board his ass. I'm going to climb up in there and try to get me some of that, right? That juice. And I said, but he's got more years on the job than me. And I know, I mean, he I'm sure he's going to feel guilty about it and everything else, but he ain't going to confess. And I said, I wouldn't fucking confess. You couldn't beat it out of me if I was him. And then it's kind of my boy, right? I said, but I promise you, I'm going to try. And long or short of it is, bring him back in, sit him down, and I look at him and he's looking at me. And remember, y'all, this is a real veteran law enforcement officer. But I told you, the best people in the world develop narcotics addictions or gambling addictions or whatever it may be. It doesn't make them a monster, right? They're not raping babies. They're not murdering people. But in my mind, I'm just thinking, how sick is this cat, right? And then they're describing to you physically. He was older. He's probably like maybe how old I am now. He had glasses. He wasn't in the best physical health. He's a big dude. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. And I'm looking at him and he's looking at me. And I said, well, and I said, how you think you did? And he said, oh, I passed it. I'm like, well, you did a lot of things today, brother. I said, I passed it. It ain't one of them. And he looked at me. I said, yeah, deception indicated to the relevant questions. I said, now, you and I have been getting down for a long time, right? And, I said, if you really feel like you're going to lie to me or whatever, I said, just don't say anything. Just don't insult my intelligence, right? And he just sat there and he looked at me, turned red in the face. I said, now here's the deal. There's no doubt in my mind that you took the evidence from those envelopes and that you've been doing it, right? And he didn't say yes or no. I said, the problem is you're a career law enforcement professional, and I know you're not taking those pain pills to sell on the street for money. I said, I know it's not anything like that. I said, you and I are talking off the record, right? And I'm talking old cop to old cop. I said, I know it's not for nefarious reasons, if you will. And I said, evidently, you got a bad pain pill problem. And he just looked at me. He didn't say anything. And I just kept, trying to work on him. And I said, hey, man, look, we can get you some help. And you you're addicted to pain pills and we get you some help. I said, but we got to clear up the situation. I said, it's bad. And in the, evidence is evidence, right? And evidence is everything, right? And he shook his head, yeah. And he said, you're right. Yeah, evidence is everything. And he said, whoever did that is really screwed it up for everybody else. And I said, yep, and I bet they're really, really ashamed, huh? And he said, yep. He said, I could guarantee you they're ashamed. And I said, well, let me get them some help. And he just looked at me and he kind of tilted his head sideways. And, and he hung his head a little bit. And I thought, for just maybe a second, he was going to reach out for the help, right? And then it wasn't as short as what I'm telling y'all. I mean, we'd talk for whatever, but this is the meat of it. I thought for a second maybe he was going to say, well, you know what, I was in an accident and on duty, which I knew this came back later on, that some years before he had been in an accident on duty, and then that's where it started. But I thought he was going to tell me that. Then his old cop. I mean, he's not fucking stupid. And he wasn't going to admit to it because he knew we had dick. And now we could go back. And I told him, I said, dude, don't make it be the hard way. Yeah, we going to go. Obviously, those envelopes have been slit open, are going off for DNA. And he was like, yep, but if my DNA comes back on any of them, then, I sign him into the evidence room. That's a matter of fact. That's on paper. I said, yeah, I get you from that standpoint. He says, so there's no probable cause there. That's my defense on that. And basically, it was like he was confessing without confessing. And we went through all the different scenarios and couldn't get the juice. And it just, we went for like several hours to the point where I was pleading to him about his wife and his kids were grown now. And, the main thing was we could try to get him some help and all that, and never confessed. And I didn't think he would. But he knew that I had to tell the powers that be that he failed the polygraph test to those questions, and that I interviewed him at length, and that personally, and to this day, and I'll take it, I guarantee it to my grave, he is the one that took the evidence from those envelopes. And I ended up finished testing everybody in the department, and he was the only one that was deception indicated. I tried to help him, couldn't help him, but I don't blame him for being in self-preservation. He was down the rabbit hole, but he knew. And this is how bad the sickness was. He knew that by getting that instant gratification and slicing open those bags and stealing that evidence, the pain pills, so he can get his fix, he knew more than anybody. He knew more than the chief knew because he had been there longer and had more years on the job. He knew he was fucking up everything. Because evidence is everything. And he even agreed with me. Evidence is everything. Anyway, it was a real shit show. As far as what happened, I know they ended up dismissing a shit ton of cases that related to evidence for different things. And I think some of them were fault. And then some people found, or they had to tell everybody or whatever. The DA's office did what they had to do, but it was just bad. Now, flip back. All the man hours spent. First of all, you got all the prosecutions, all the shitbirds that get to walk free, okay? Then you have all the man hours spent not only by the district attorneys in the courtroom, getting up there, all the different ADAs, getting up there, handling these different cases and waiting and taking up the court's time, rescheduling because they don't have lab submittal forms back yet. Goes on for months, but it just eats money and time everywhere, all the way up to the point where they have to go in and actually search for the stuff and then find out that there's a problem. And then, me spending weeks on working the case, and then, the people that walk free and just a real shit show. And what do? You know, at the time, really, there was no better system than what they had in place. So the evidence is everything. And I told you again last week, I've had to spend days looking for evidence, digging through piles of shit and you know, for things that were lost. And we'd find them most of the time, but I've helped people where we couldn't find some of it. But it's evidence. You have a responsibility, I think, as a law enforcement professional to really, really treat that like it's your own baby. Because if you're going to take this person's freedom based off your probable cause, and then you need to follow through with the case. And that's what Mr. Kearney Foster, my first chief, was so hard on people about. It's like, hey, you fuckers don't show up for court, or your evidence thing wasn't right, or whatever. Hey, your job doesn't end when you put them in jail. Your job doesn't end until after you get the conviction, right? So evidence. And it was everything, and it's everything, the man hours, it's all you do. And I'm going to tell y'all, I'm going to read you a case real quick. And then next week, I'm going to tell you the solution and why. And again, I want any lifer out there who has ever had or knows someone who's had a problem with evidence, like mishandling. Now look, there's different ways. Cops can hide evidence on purpose. It certainly has happened because they're dirty, right? And for whatever reason, or they get bribed, or they're involved, whatever it may be. Or simply, more common is shit. They take in so much evidence every single day, and it's all got to be stored. It all has to be housed. And then a lot of times, guess what? The people that work the evidence room, and I'm certainly not saying everybody, y'all, but the departments that are bigger enough to have people that work the evidence rooms, a lot of times that's the people who have been injured on the job and can't work the street anymore, and shit, their heart isn't in the evidence, and so they take it in, and it might get filed correctly or might not. And what happens if your evidence person retires and you get a new evidence person comes in, and you might have had your own system. There's no policy and procedure. You might have had your own system, and they don't know what the hell it is, and how they gonna find the evidence? And then you got the chain of custody going back and forth to the labs and all that. I mean, it's just a lot, and it's so important. And if you're a lifer out there and you've ever had the problem where your case got dismissed, especially on a criminal case, I want to know about it. So email me, woody@realliferealcrime.com, or you can message me or whatever. Okay. Yeah, I know I don't like to use notes, but I want to read you a case. And I just hit Google about evidence in the state of Louisiana, and this case popped up, and I'm going to read it to you, and I'll tell you who it's by. It's by Steve Hardy, and it's stevehardy@theadvocate.com. And the article is from April 22nd of 2017. Now, this is the first one that I came to y'all. I could have gone to and picked up a million of them. But like I said, the evidence mishandling could be malicious by malintent on the cops. It could just be pure human error, which it is most of the time. Or, stuff gets lost or whatever. Or, the malfeasance, like I told you on the story about this cop who was stealing the pain pills out of the evidence room, right? That career cop. And by the way, he got out of law enforcement like right after that, y'all, to conclude that case for you. And he's no longer, I don't even know if he's still alive, to be honest with you, but he's no longer on the job. I know that. And he went ahead and retired out. But I want to read you this article and just give you a scope, and then I'll close it out. And then next week I'm gonna explain to you what I found, and please send in any cases that you have or personal knowledge or experience you have where shit got messed up. So the title of this article is Baton Rouge DA Innocence Project Tangle Over Missing Evidence in a Rape Case. It says a nonprofit legal aid group is trying to reopen the books on a decades-old East Baton Rouge Parish rape conviction by tracking evidence for DNA testing. However, the bloodstains, bed sheets, rape kit, and sunglasses have disappeared from the evidence record since the 1980s. East Baton Rouge Parish District Attorney.
Hey y'all, let me tell you about Gobble. All Gobble meal kits are pre-prepped. That means less work for you and less waste in your kitchen. Their meal kits include everything you need so you can save time at the store or just skip that trip entirely. I got the box in and I had 3 different meals. I had a Kung Pao chicken, crispy fish tacos, and a beef bourguignon, however you say it. But let me tell you about the classic beef bourguignon. Look, it came with beef pot roast and a beef broth concentrate, red wine demi-glace, cremini mushrooms, cipollone onions, mashed potatoes, baby carrots, and rosemary thyme butter. It was so easy to make. Literally like 15 minutes it took Cindy. And let me tell you something, all the dishes were fire, but this thing was like a taste explosion in my mouth. It's just unreal. We've got to spend more time together and more time doing the things we love because everything came in this one single box right to my door. So see what a difference Gobble will make for your household. Right now, they're offering my listeners a fantastic limited time deal. You get $120 off across 4 boxes plus free shipping and free cookies. And let me tell you, those cookies, I ate one that was sin-baked and it was delicious. Go to gobble.com/reallife. That's GOBBLE.com/real-life for $120 off your first 4 boxes. This offer is not available on the home site, so don't miss out. This is genius. It's taste explosions in your mouth like you never had.
Taylor Moore said he plans to resist any attempts to turn his evidence room over looking for clues his office does not believe are there. Roy Morgan was convicted and sentenced to life in 1983 for rape of a victim identified only as L.H. In an application for post-conviction relief, attorneys with the Innocence Project New Orleans wrote that Morgan has always denied committing the rape and that the only direct evidence of his guilt was a single eyewitness identification by the victim. In 2010, Morgan asked the court to submit various evidence for DNA testing, which wasn't available when his case was first considered by the court. Specific evidence he wanted tested includes the rapist's sunglasses, knocked off in a struggle, blood left at the crime scene from a cut on the assailant's arm, the victim's bed sheets, which could be tested for blood, semen, and the results from a sexual assault kit collected at a hospital. The 19th Judicial District Court denied Morgan's request because the evidence could not be located for testing. His request states, however, in November, the Innocence Project staff were investigating an unrelated case and found misfiled evidence from other investigations jumbled together in the same box, the request states. Morgan's attorneys made supplemental filing, and earlier this month, the First Circuit Court ordered the local court to hold a new hearing to determine whether the specified items of evidence susceptible to the DNA testing still exist. The two sides disagree over how much digging that will require. The district attorney's office has already gone the extra mile by searching the file with the misidentified evidence and found no material related to Morgan's case, prosecutors wrote in a response to the Innocence Project's request. The Innocence Project wants the court to allow investigators to comb through much more than the district attorney's storage space. Counsel for Roy Morgan requested an expansive exercise of judicial power based on meager evidence. There is no factual or legal basis to order the district attorney to do more than it has already done in regards to this case, they wrote. It appears that, given the 30 years that have passed since the commission of the crime, that the evidence no longer exists or can no longer be found. Innocence Project New Orleans director Emily Maul fired back saying, "It is indefensible for prosecutors to claim they look for Morgan's case evidence in the most obvious place but then gave up the search. She believes the most likely explanation is that the bed sheets, rape kit, and other items are still in the district attorney's custody, but somewhere along the line it was misidentified or improperly inventoried. It's a fairly common problem in old cases, and a more thorough search could set the record straight, Mall said. The burden of diligently searching for files in furtherance of the district court's investigation is nothing compared to the potential and unimaginable injustice of Mr. Morgan dying in prison for a crime he did not commit simply because an evidence custodian could not be bothered to diligently look within its own storage, attorneys wrote in their application. Moore said in an interview that it would be ridiculous for the court to allow the Innocence Project to look through all his storage, briefly alluding to concerns about contamination of evidence. However, he said he needs to hear Morgan's attorney's proposal before he can respond more directly. So I have no idea what they're going to ask, the district attorney said. Mall said that the two sides in the court still have to work out how a search is to be formed and how to handle any evidence that may turn up. She said that any items that may have DNA connected to Morgan's case is pretty clearly eligible for genetic testing. There could be a fallout for the district attorney's office if it's misplaced evidence. Mall referred to an Innocence Project case in New York in which a man named Alan Newton was convicted of a rape in 1985. He requested a DNA test in 1994 to try and clear his name according to the information on the Innocence Project's website. Prosecutors said the evidence he wanted to test was presumed lost, but during a search 11 years later, the victim's rape kit was found, and DNA from sperm collected after the attack was not a match to Newton. He sued the district attorney's office and won, Mall said. And that's the end of the article, y'all. But the reason I want to read that to you is this shit happens. And let me tell you something, Hiller Moore and the district attorney's office of Baton Rouge, they're squared away. But this obviously happened before Hiller Moore became district attorney. Again, what I said, what happens if the DA's custodian retires and somebody else comes in and this dude's been using the system for 20 plus years and they know whatever, and now the system's all jacked up, they can't find it. And I don't think it's unreasonable for a person to be allowed a DNA test to prove his innocence or not, right? And especially if DNA wasn't allowed back then. But what's bad is when you go to your evidence room, you say, hey, I need to pull all evidence associated with a file number 2021-0201, whatever, right? And they come back and say, we can't find it, or we don't have anything. I'm like, well, the reports state that you have it in the evidence room. Let me go look again. Well, come back, can't find it, don't have it. And, okay, can you check your books? Check the books. Oh, it shows it was checked in on such and such date. Well, this is a locked motherfucking room, right? And then they were like, oh, give us a couple days and we'll go look for it. And then they spending all this time and you're waiting. They're spending man hours. It's going back and forth. And whatever the reason may be, it could be something as serious as a murder case or a rape case like that, or it could be something small like the story I told you about with it's not small, but the pain pills missing from the evidence room that were taken because the guy had an addiction, and that's the way he got his fix or helped to get his fix. So there's human error because you're addicted or you're a bad cop and you want to hide evidence for whatever reason, or just simply more common is these people handle such a shit ton of evidence every day that shit gets lost. I mean, it just happens. And hell, I lose my remote control. I can get up and go get some tea out of the icebox, come back to watch TV, I lose remote control, right? I mean, so if I can do that, if you handle 50,000 pieces of evidence a month, you think something can't get lost? And it's just a fact of nature And it happens, and I have more cases, but there's a reason I'm telling you all this, okay? And there's one of the big ones. I'm going to tell it at a later date after the case is adjudicated. But I found out how to stop it, and it's easy peasy, and it is a solution for everyone, and it not only can stop it, and it's been proven to stop it, but this system, this fix, if you will, is actually a local, homegrown, patented idea that actually came to formation, and it's just genius when I tell you about it. And I didn't know about it, and I didn't know the system existed, and they're just getting out there, and they've done the proof of concept, et cetera, and they're just getting out there, and I can promise you this, it won't be long, and there will be every department in the United States of America, every district attorney's office, whatever, is going to be using this system. And next week, I'm going to have on a guest who I guess you can call him the CEO or the head of this company. And it is something I absolutely believe in 1,000%, to the point that if you've been screwed for whatever reason on an evidence case, you know someone who has, then I want to know about it. And in the future, as I can, I'm going to do more evidence episodes, because I have them, and some of them a little touchy and iffy, and I haven't been adjudicated, and I can't talk about yet, and because I don't know what's going to happen. But next week, tune in. I'm going to blow your mind with the real deal, and I'm going to include this episode of PADtrax. And thank you for listening. So next week, I'll have a guest with me on the show. It's going to trip you out. All right. That being said, all my regular stuff. Justice for Courtney Coco. Man, just keep hanging in there, y'all. Justice for Courtney. Justice for Barbara Blunt. The hotline tip line is 225-395-1302. Y'all, please continue to use it. The Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office is actively working the case. I am actively working the case. COVID has just got us screwed, but I'm still taking tips, right? But everything can't be followed up on because there's no manpower, and including my own, to be able to get out and do everything that needs to be done. But it is being worked. So just for Miss Barbara, local businesses. I'm going to keep saying this every week because I believe in it. We are doing all the national commercials. For those of you who aren't patron members and you have to listen to commercials, well, I don't like you having to listen to them any more than I do, but we have to make a living. So we have all these national commercials, right? And that I'm spokesperson for and stuff like that. Let's bring it home, people. If you have a local business and you want us to blow you up, show us how we can help you, then you contact us or contact Cindy, CYNDI, at realliferealcrime.com, or Woody at realliferealcrime.com. And we have all the demographics and all the studies and everything else to show you how we can help your business. And we can show you the proof of concept of how we are helping all the national businesses. But I like to support local. So let's bring it home. Y'all like us, share us, follow, subscribe. That's something I never really asked you to. Wherever you listen to your podcast, subscribe to it. It's free. Subscribe to Real Life Real Crime, because we do these episode drops. If I don't put it out there, people are like, where's the episode? And I used to post it on all the social media with the links to it, etc. I don't do that anymore. But if you subscribe, anytime I put something in the system, you'll get an alert that you have something new from Real Life Real Crime. So you do that. In Instagram, at Overton Woody, or at Real Life Real Crime. Y'all go check it out. I put funny stuff on there all the time. Totally different than our Facebook stuff. Facebook, I cannot accept any more personal friends. I'm past the 5,000 mark, so you can hit me up on our regular Real Life Real Crime page. But more importantly, we have the Real Life Real Crime Friends, Fans and Crew, KREWE, private group. Go and ask to join. It's over 31,000 members. Go and ask to join, and Dream Team moderators will get you approved. If you're a true crime fan, don't go in there and get your butt hurt if you're not a true crime fan, okay? That's for true crime fans. And And I interact with the fans every day, and the fans interact with each other, lifers interact with each other, etc. The Real Life Real Crime Lanyap page, anything you want to post, from your missing dog to anything you sell or jokes or whatever. That's another private group though, y'all. It takes 1 minute to apply, and our Dream Team moderators will get you approved for it. But you can go in there and post anything you want to that's not true crime related. And I guess that's about it. I'm going to shut it down for this week. Next week's important. I need you to listen to the fixes I wish would have been in place when I was in law enforcement. I damn sure can help them get in place now, so nobody else has to suffer, or my taxpayer dollars won't be wasted for people looking for evidence. But as always, LOPA, it's my passion, Louisiana Organ Procurement Agency. Look at my map on the wall here of our listener countries. Pakistan, if you're a listener or a lifer in Pakistan and you want to be an organ donor, you don't have to be from the state of Louisiana. You go to lopa.org, LOPA.org, fill out to be an organ donor, y'all. Please be a hero, give the gift of life, the sight, and all that good stuff, right? And anyway, again, I'm going to be doing some episodes in the future where organ donors that were victims of homicides actually saved lives. So it's important. Sign up, lopa.org. They do have a section on there, y'all. They've actually added a Real Life Real Crime and how did you hear about us, and it said if you want to check Real Life Real Crime. And that's it. I'm Woody Overton, your host of Real Life Real Crime, the podcast. Until next time or ever, don't let me catch you down on Murder Bayou. Peace.
Get ready, you're gonna do time. Real life, real crime.
Real Life Real Crime is a true crime podcast brought to you by Woody Overton and executive producer Toby Templey.